So, would you like to share your journey with the GMAT so far, or you would let it be?
Me, sir.
Would you like to share?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I have started like almost 3.5 years back.
Mm.
So I have cleared SSC. I work in Mumbai Customs. So I thought ki somehow I have to score around 650 to get admission in Canada.
Mm.
So I thought I'll get it. Like I went into the examination center for the first time without preparation, and I scored quants 49 and verbal was by 22. So I thought only I need to work is on verbal, and I have to revise few concepts of quants. Like
Yeah.
what is the syllabus? DS was quite different from SSC examination.
So,
So I enrolled in EGMAT, and I took only verbal only, and I
mm.
revised all the concept. I learned all the concept, and in next after 3 months, uh, I again attempted and I got same score V49, Q49, and V22. What I realized after this attempt was I have learned all the concept, but I didn't learn how to execute them in the examination center. Again, I was attempting question in the same manner as I did in my first attempt. I was
Yeah.
just marking answer which were looking good to me, and then I thought, yeah, it needs expertise, depth. I have to build depth to clear this examination.
Mm.
So then I got enrolled with top 1%. Top 1% taught me a lot of concepts, like short tricks that which actually helped me in cutting our time, like in sentence correction, few tricks. And after that, I gave attempt and I got B29 and Q was 47. Uh, I don't know how, but this time quants was quite tough. I prepared also, but quant I felt I prepared quant from Vizag, but I found quant was quite tough. And then after this attempt, I thought, okay, I need more work to do. I took between this attempt in first two attempts there was a gap of 3 months, but in the next attempt there was a gap of 1.5 years. So I was preparing for 1.5 years, and then again in last December, I thought, okay, I'm prepared, and now I took private coaching from EGMAT, and then I thought I am prepared, and no, sorry, I didn't took in before fourth attempt. I didn't took private coaching. Again, I prepared from top 1%. This time I got 560, Q49, and verbal was V around 19 something, 19, V90. This was the lowest. Yes, sir. In sentence correction, it was V36, but rest of them RC and CR was V13 and 14. Although my RC and CR was much better than my sentence correction, but I felt before my attempt.
That's right.
And after fourth attempt, uh, now I thought I have spent so much time in it. Give it
Mm.
one more attempt. So one of my friend who was in coaching in Vizag, she got admitted in Columbia Business School. She gave executive assessment test. So she advised me rather than going for GMAT, go for a shorter version, executive assessment. So I
Okay.
started preparing it, and after one mock only, I found okay, I can get much better score than GMAT.
Okay.
So I took EGMAT's private tutoring, and then I attempted. I got 155 score. In quants, I scored 14. In verbal, I scored 12. And in IR, again lacked. I scored 9. And after this attempt, executive assessment was my
Does
latest attempt.
155 mean? Uh, what percentile is it? 155?
It doesn't show some uh, percentile,
That's okay.
but I can give like there is a program in MIT Sloan. Sloan Fellows program. Its median score is 155.
Acha.
She got admitted in for 155, and Georgetown has only Georgetown has shared median score. But its median score is 153. But score 160 is sort of great score.
Acha, okay.
And so this was the latest attempt. Executive assessment was my latest attempt, and so so applied in US schools, B schools, those who accept this score. But I found I applied in round one, five. I applied in 5 colleges like Tepper, Rice, Georgetown, Vanderbilt, and Texas McCombs. And but what I found, I have talked to those who got invites from those Indian applicants who got invites, and I found all of them who I contacted were 750 or 750 plus. None below 750. I have were in the group. There are almost 2,000 candidates in those group, and none of them who got invites were which I contacted were below 750. There was none.
Okay.
Although I have while talking to the consultant, they said you have a very diverse profile. Like I have BTech degree, then I worked in government sector. Also, I'm a national athlete, and like whatever I can do it in the past, I had a bit
Yeah.
of diversity.
Yeah.
But no calls. So I thought it's better to give one more attempt to GMAT and
Okay. I see.
and apply with a GMAT score.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we'll start with you, Ritin. We have Indranil and Farhan with us, who will also be whom I can call upon anytime. So you stay there. But I'm not sure when I'll call, because again, this is a new experiment that I'm having. Private sessions are normally 1-to-1, but I didn't know how this is going to be, and since it's going to be publicly available, so I wanted to make it more usable. So I wanted to have options with me that sort of I can call upon different people to sort of have more learning from the session. So we'll start right now. But Farhan, Indranil, thank you for volunteering. Actually, 17 people volunteered. I had to shortlist you three. And the thing is, so again, I'll call you Farhan, Indranil, whenever I think we can gain. So let me start. So we'll start with an RC passage, and Ritin, since we are starting with you, so you can tell me if you have seen this passage. Even if you have seen, that's fine, Vese. But have you seen this passage earlier?
No, sir.
Okay, that's
No.
good. So normally, वैसे RC में what's your problem, or where do you think your problem lies?
Sir, problem lies when there is a passage below 700 level, I can get accuracy within time. But once the level rises above 700, there is a complex language. Sometimes I got stuck in between sentence, and I'm not able to link those sentence. And then this is like a domino effect. Then sentence to leads to para, and then I ultimately have to.
So what is your approach in RC? How do you go about understanding an RC passage?
I I try to understand the sentence, then I try to understand linking those sentences to sentences level. Then I, after understanding that paragraph, what actually author is directing to, why he's writing this paragraph, why he's writing this essay, why he has written this paragraph, but actually this paragraph will further leads to which direction, like whether he's questioning the thought, or whether he's presenting the thought, positives, negatives. I checked paragraph on this basis, and then try to conclude like what next para will be about. And this way I try to link sentence to sentence level, then para to para level, and then try give 10 seconds to summarize. Okay, this is a positive essay, negative essay, neutral essay, or author is doubting someone, so that this this helps me in answering that primary purpose question. And
Okay, so let me share my understanding of how you go about it. So you read a sentence, then you read another sentence, you understand, then you connect the sentence back to the. So
right,
you
sir.
take these. So you read sentence after sentence, and then you at every sentence you try to connect it back.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Then at the end of a paragraph, you try to understand what this paragraph is saying, and then where it could lead to. And
Right,
then
sir.
at the end of the whole passage, then you think about what has happened and all that. So quickly you try to summarize.
Right, sir.
So where did you learn this approach that you have to make connections after every sentence?
Sir, I learned this approach while EGMAT, uh, personal tutoring.
Acha, acha. So in personal tutoring, so in the course they have a different approach or what?
In course they have just explained questions, how to deal with the questions. But one
Acha,
of the in the free seminar videos they have used this approach, because when I was in touch with the ma'am, she shared me the same free video
acha.
to go through this approach for
I see.
asking.
I see. Okay. So that's the same approach that I follow. So we read a sentence, understand it, then we read the next sentence, we understand, then we connect it back. It's a simple process. There is no complexity and it's not specific to RC. It is the way anything you are trying to understand and it has to be read. Whether you're doing
Right,
RC, SC, or even quant or anything in life you're doing, this is a way of reading. This is not
right,
a RC specific approach.
right.
Okay. ठीक है. So we can start with this. So you can just go ahead and start explaining to me. Uh, you can first read it, let's say one or two sentences on your own, or let's say we go sentence by sentence. You can explain me the meaning of the sentence, and after the second sentence, you can explain me the meaning and how it is connected. Whatever goes in your mind when you read sentences, you can just explain.
Okay, sir. So first sentence is conodonts were once among the most controversial fossil fuels. And in between, it explains they are the phospho- phosphatic remains of tiny marine animals that appeared 520 million years ago.
So yeah,
So, yes, sir.
so explain it a little more in your words.
Okay. So, what author is saying, like it was once most controversial of fossils, but probably I'm expecting in the next lines it will be explained like now the controversy has been solved, or like it has taken some direction. So it will be discussing about what happened to that which was once most controversial among the fossils.
So you're saying, yeah, so when you read the first sentence, you're thinking, yeah, it was once among the most controversial of fossils, so probably it's not controversial anymore.
It will be telling about the further explaining about the controversy. I will not make a conclusion, like I will not conclude this, but I will know it will be talking about the controversy in the next coming sentences.
So you expect it to talk about controversy, but you don't know whether it's still controversial, it's not controversial, and all that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else you gain from this sentence? What you take away from this sentence?
It's just like is he has emphasized like it was once, but chances are very high ki now it is not.
Acha, so do you
But
have a
I'll
question?
but I'll still wait for author.
So there is always a difference between indication and inference. So what you're
Right,
saying is indication है कि
right.
शायद अब controversial नहीं होंगे क्योंकि the way it is put. We
Yes, sir.
can't infer it,
Yes, sir.
but there is an indication,
Right,
right?
sir. Right.
ठीक है. Anything else from this? ठीक है. तो एक तो मोटा मोटा तो आपने ये ले लिया conodonts के बाद once among the most controversial तो शायद अब नहीं है. Anything else you take from this sentence? Any particular detail you take and all that?
Um, Rest is factual data, sir. I
ठीक है,
didn't
तो
take any
कॉनोडॉन्ट्स
form.
क्या होते हैं? डू यू टेक दैट अवे फ्रॉम दिस सेंटेंस? कॉनोडॉन्ट्स क्या होते हैं?
Marine animals. So I don't know exactly what it is, but
कॉनोडॉन्ट्स एक टाइनी मेरीन एनिमल्स होते हैं,
right, sir.
राइट?
Right.
दिस इज नॉट व्हाट द सेंटेंस इज सेइंग.
Okay. What what is the meaning, sir?
लिखा हुआ है, यू रीड इट अगेन.
Okay, this is not the meaning. If I explain it more in brief, like conodonts are the fossils remains, and they were once among the most controversial of fossils.
कॉनोडॉन्ट्स क्या होते हैं?
Fossils
ठीक
of
है, किस
tiny
वाले?
marine animals.
हाँ, so they are not tiny marine animals. They are remains of tiny marine animals.
Right, sir.
तो आपने बोलने में गलती करी थी या फिर यू हैड दिस इनकरेक्ट आइडिया इन योर माइंड?
नहीं sir, I haven't explained it correctly. Like first I read this line only. Conodonts were among the most controversial of fossils.
या
Rest was is explaining about conodonts. What conodonts are the spiky phosphatic remains of tiny marine animals. So this is basically
नहीं, विच इज फाइन. मैं जब आपसे पूछता था कि कॉनोडॉन्ट्स क्या होते हैं, तो आपने बोला कि दे आर टाइनी मेरीन एनिमल्स. तो ये आपसे
right,
बाद में आपने कहा अच्छा अच्छा, दे आर फॉसिल, दे आर रिमेन्स ऑफ टाइनी मेरीन एनिमल्स.
sir. Uh, I'll tell you what problem actually is. When I first read it, I read it. Okay, conodonts are fossils. But while explaining, as I go in the paragraph after time, what I what problem I faced is I forgot. Like this is a minute detail. Conodonts about fossils. Of some I might have misunderstood it like it's a marine animal or actual में it is fossils. But as मतलब इसको जितना डिस्कस करेंगे I started forgetting its its details. But
तो अभी तो सेंटेंस पढ़ा है, अभी से डिटेल्स कैसे यू स्टार्ट फॉरगेटिंग? अभी तो हम फर्स्ट सेंटेंस में ही हैं, वी आर नॉट एनीवेयर एल्स. तो आप कह रहे हो अभी से वो भूलना शुरू हो चुके हो आप, एंड दिस आल्सो हैपेंस इन जनरल.
right, sir.
नहीं नहीं, इज दिस व्हाट यू आर सेइंग? ये दिस इज व्हाट हैपेंस विद यू कि यू स्टार्ट फॉरगेटिंग डिटेल्स as soon as even just right after the sentence?
Yes, sir. मतलब ये I face this problem. Like I get your point, sir. कि इट कॉनोडोंट्स यहाँ पे जो एक्चुअल कैच क्या है ये समझने का है कि कॉनोडोंट्स इज अ मेरीन एनिमल और फॉसिल्स ऑफ मेरीन एनिमल्स. सो
Yeah.
आई गॉट द कैच बट वो एक्सप्लेन करने में it might have sound like I'm talking about once lived marine animals, but get the point कि ये it is talking about the fossils.
नहीं नहीं, वो तो फॉसिल्स है, दैट्स फाइन. वो रिमेन्स है, दैट्स फाइन. तो मेरा पॉइंट है कि आपके दिमाग में आइडिया गलत था या आपने एक्सप्लेन करते टाइम यू स्पोक इट इनकरेक्टली?
Sir, I spoke it incorrectly.
आपके दिमाग में वो फॉसिल्स या रिमेन्स ऑफ टेनी मेरीन एनिमल्स ही था, ये कह रहे हो आप?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
तो वो गलत नहीं था, बोलते टाइम आपने जस्ट टाइनी टाइनी मेरीन एनिमल्स बोल दिया.
Yes, I might have explained it in a manner कि it's
दैट्स फाइन,
like
दैट इज फाइन, दैट इज फाइन, दैट इज फाइन. ठीक है, आगे चलते हैं.
वो. Now it is talking about the organism that its both nature and function were unknown.
किसका क्या? थोड़ा इलाबोरेट करो.
जिस भी एनिमल्स के रिमेन्स है, उस एनिमल्स के नेचर एंड फंक्शंस वर अननोन।
ठीक है, ठीक है,
नेक्स्ट सेंटेंस पे
बट इसका
हूँ।
कनेक्शन पिछले सेंटेंस है, व्हाट इज द कनेक्शन?
ओके, इट इज सेइंग कि ये कंट्रोवर्शियल क्यों था, क्योंकि बिकॉज बोथ नेचर एंड फंक्शन वर अननोन। सो
अच्छा, ओके, सो यू आर सेइंग इट इज एक्सप्लेनिंग व्हाई दे वर कंट्रोवर्शियल बिकॉज ये चीजें हमें पता नहीं थी, दीस थिंग्स वर अननोन।
राइट, राइट सर।
ओके, ठीक है, सो देयर इज again a correction. It is saying the nature of the organism is unknown and the function of the remains were unknown. It is not saying the function of the animal is unknown.
So sorry sir, I didn't get your point.
It is saying the nature of the organism,
Yes sir.
the function of the remains. When you were explaining, you were saying the nature and the function of the organism were unknown.
Okay,
ठीक
got the point, got the point.
Yeah,
Sir,
ठीक है.
one problem I face, should I note these points? Like what my takeaway after reading the passage is like,
That
okay,
will
it is
that will talk
okay,
about.
okay,
वो तो खुद की बात है.
okay.
ठीक है. In any case, this is getting recorded, so you don't need to take any notes right now.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
However, since so it's saying कि after since 1981, discovery of the fossils preserving not just the phosphatic elements but also other remains of soft-bodied animals uh, that bore them. Scientists had implications for the hypothesis that concerned with the structure of the vertebrate skeleton.
थोड़ा दोबारा समझाना पड़ेगा.
Okay. Actually, but my understanding is 1981 में जो डिस्कवरी हुई उसमें ये पता चला कि जो स्केलेटन है, रिमेन्स है, वो नॉट ओनली फॉस्फेटिक एलिमेंट्स प्रिजर्व करते हैं बट आल्सो सम अदर रिमेन्स जो उनको उनको भी मतलब प्रिजर्व करते हैं. सो उसकी वजह से साइंटिस्ट will this discovery helps them for the development of the vertebrate skeleton, जो hypothesis साइंटिस्ट लेके चल रहे थे.
तो आप कह रहे हो 1981 में एक डिस्कवरी हुई है,
यस सर.
तो क्या डिस्कवरी है?
ये डिस्कवरी ये है कि फॉसिल सिर्फ फॉस्फेटिक एलिमेंट्स नहीं प्रिजर्व कर रहे बट अदर रिमेन्स भी प्रिजर्व कर रहे हैं इन
ठीक
द
है,
सेम कॉनोडेंट्स जो फॉस्फेटिक एलिमेंट्स बोर करते हैं.
तो सिर्फ यही नहीं प्रिजर्व कर रहे हैं, दे आर आल्सो प्रिजर्विंग अदर रिमेन्स.
यस सर.
ओके, ये हमारी डिस्कवरी है.
यस सर.
ठीक है.
एंड this have important implications like on the hypothesis जो साइंटिस्ट कर रहे थे about the development of the vertebrate skeleton, जो उसका पूरा फ्रेमवर्क है.
इस डिस्कवरी है.
उसको उसकी हाइपोथेसिस जो उन्होंने थ्योरी बनाई होगी कि इस तरीके का फ्रेमवर्क होगा, उसको उसके लिए दिस विल हेल्प, दिस डिस्कवरी विल हेल्प. in reconstructing that frame.
This discovery will help what?
This discovery will help in that in reconstructing जो hypothesis थी उनकी पहले कि इस तरीके का फ्रेमवर्क होगा, उसको reconstruct करने में help करेगा to get a more clear picture of that vertebrate skeleton.
ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, करके करते हैं। तो दिस डिस्कवरी विल हेल्प इन रिकंस्ट्रक्टिंग सम हाइपोथेसिस, दिस इज व्हाट यू आर सेइंग। ठीक है, हाइपोथेसिस की बात करेंगे, हाइपोथेसिस क्या है, बट
in reconstructing the vertebrate skeleton that was earlier hypothesized by the scientist.
अच्छा, तो रिकंस्ट्रक्टिंग द हाइपोथेसिस ये नहीं है, दिस इज नॉट व्हाट यू एग्री विद।
No, sir. Reconstructing the vertebrate skeleton.
Vertebrate skeleton.
Which was earlier, before discovery, scientists were hypothesizing. They were thinking कि the framework would be like this. But yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's my point.
कह रहे हो कि पहले एक हाइपोथेसिस थी कि स्केलेटन इस तरह का होता है, और इस
Yes, sir.
डिस्कवरी से आगे जाके रिकंस्ट्रक्ट होगा या रिकंस्ट्रक्ट हो गया है?
Reconstruction में help करेगा, sir. That had some implications. So it will help. It will not completely reconstruct.
अभी रिकंस्ट्रक्शन नहीं हुआ है, बट डिस्कवरी इवेंचुअली विल हेल्प इन रिकंस्ट्रक्टिंग।
Yes, sir.
तो हम इस डिस्कवरी को फ्यूचर में यूज करके we'll reconstruct the skeleton जो हमने एक बना रखा है, और उसको अब हम नया बनाएंगे यूजिंग दिस डिस्कवरी।
आफ्टर 1981 के बाद, सर, आज प्रेजेंट में नहीं बनाएंगे हम, फ्यूचर में। 1981 की बात करो, जब 1981 में डिस्कवरी हो गई थी, उसके बाद साइंटिस्ट तो को इसमें काफी हेल्प मिली। दिस डिस्कवरी काफी हेल्प्स करी टू रिकंस्ट्रक्ट दैट स्केलेटन।
अभी हम 1981 में, या 1981 हमारा पास्ट है?
पास्ट।
1981 हमारा पास्ट है, प्रेजेंट नहीं है, राइट?
राइट।
आपको आपके हिसाब से बोलना है ना, क्योंकि हम 1981 को पास्ट कह रहे हैं, तो अगर आप डिस्कवरी विल हेल्प बोलोगे तो मैं तो ये समझूंगा कि अभी आज से फ्यूचर में कुछ होने वाला है। अभी आप कह रहे हो नहीं नहीं, विल हेल्प ये 1981 के रिस्पेक्ट में विल हेल्प है।
यस सर।
नो नो नो, सो आपको आज के हिसाब से बात करनी है।
ओके।
तो अभी क्या कह रहे हो, अभी आप रिकंस्ट्रक्शन हो चुकी है या रिकंस्ट्रक्शन होनी है?
हो चुकी है सर, हो चुकी है।
रिकंस्ट्रक्शन हो चुकी है।
यस सर।
तो हैज हेल्प्ड ऐसे बोल देते हैं।
राइट सर।
डिस्कवरी ने ऑलरेडी हेल्प कर दिया है रिकंस्ट्रक्ट करने में वर्टिब्रेट स्केलेटन को, जिसको हमने पहले कुछ बना रखा था, उसको हमने रिकंस्ट्रक्ट कर लिया यूजिंग दिस डिस्कवरी।
यस सर।
डिस्कवरी हमारी ये है कि फॉसिल जो है सिर्फ एक ही रिमेन्स को नहीं बचाते हैं, वो बाकी रिमेन्स को भी बचाते हैं।
यस सर। यस सर।
ठीक है, तो इस डिस्कवरी से रिकंस्ट्रक्ट कैसे हो पाएगा स्केलेटन? हमें तो ये पता, आप कह रहे हो कि हमें ये पता लग रहा है डिस्कवरी, हमें जो डिस्कवरी हुई है वो है कि फॉसिल में सिर्फ यही नहीं बचता है, ये भी बचता है। अब इस अंडरस्टैंडिंग को यूज करके विल बी एबल टू रिकंस्ट्रक्ट स्केलेटन। वो कैसे हो पाएगा? इज दिस अ वैलिड क्वेश्चन टू आस्क कि इज दिस बियॉन्ड?
बिल्कुल सर। नहीं नहीं, दिस अ वैलिड क्वेश्चन सर।
ठीक है, तो कैसे हो पाएगा?
maybe in next paragraph it might be explaining, or from this sentence.
ठीक है, हम भगवान भरोसे आगे तो छोड़ ही सकते हैं चीजों को।
Okay.
मतलब जब भी हम आगे छोड़ते हैं, मतलब हम भगवान भरोसे हैं, शायद भगवान की कृपा होगी और आगे जाके आंसर हो जाएगा। बट whatever question is there, whenever the passage makes a link that this will lead to this, we have to first stop there and try to understand what इससे एक ऐसा होगा। This is a part of comprehension, as you agreed that this is a valid question. So of course, it is possible that we may not be able to answer every question that arises, and then eventually we'll have to move forward.
Right sir.
But the norm is that you spend time and try to figure it out. Exception
Yes.
is that you move ahead without having an answer.
Right, sir.
A lot of people, the norm and exceptions are reversed. A lot of people, the exception is that you stay there and try to understand. The norm is that question आया नहीं समझ आया आगे बढ़ गए. This is not the norm. ठीक है. So you think about it. I'll ask, let's say, Indranil, if he has a different understanding of this last statement of the first paragraph. Indranil, are you there? I think probably you can't unmute. I'm not sure. Yeah. Can you now unmute?
Yeah, I can unmute now.
You were not able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was not able to unmute.
So do you have a different understanding of this last statement of the first paragraph, or your understanding is the same?
I'll just take 30 seconds.
And in the meantime, Farhan, if you also want to just look at this sentence, there is a chance I may have to ask your understanding also.
So here scientists are have had important implications on how the vertebrae skeleton of, let's say, animal develops. So how they would be in a way getting these or understanding these implications would be they have some remains of tiny soft-bodied animals along with the phosphatic elements that's already there. So using these two, they would be able to figure out how the development of vertebrate skeleton is probably happening.
Yeah, थोड़ा सा आपको और detail में you'll have to explain it. You're trying to sort of give an overall picture.
Right.
Which a lot of people sort of try to do, but comprehension is having a very clear, exact picture of the passage.
Yeah.
Not उसकी मोटा मोटा अच्छा एक ये animal था उसके हम ये fossils बचा रहे थे उससे नहीं. Being very clear what the sentence is saying. So let's try again. So you have to explain the meaning of this sentence. Be a little more detailed.
So scientists, as their work is to keep on discovering new stuff, so they probably have also a hypothesis around how vertebral skeleton develops. Right now, using the 1981 discovery of fossils, they have been able to add on to this hypothesis as to how development of vertebral skeleton has happened.
So using this discovery,
they have been this is the added knowledge to them as to how vertebral skeleton develops.
So they have a hypothesis ki how vertebrate skeleton developed, and now you are saying using this discovery.
Yeah.
Okay.
So using this can you just I'm not able to see had important. So they would have hypothesis, but this discovery has had little more addition or little more modification in that hypothesis as to how development of vertebral skeleton happens.
So using this discovery, they have modified their hypothesis.
Yeah, in a way modified because it's written important implications. So
they have modified their hypothesis. Anything else in this? So this is your understanding of the sentence? That's it, or anything else you want to add here?
Right. Just one more thing. It is not just through these phosphatic elements, but there are some other remains also of tiny soft-bodied animals that have enabled these scientists gain this additional knowledge and make modifications.
तो सिर्फ phosphatic elements नहीं है, वहाँ पे कुछ other remains भी हैं.
Right. हाँ.
तो फिर
हाँ तो फिर हाँ मतलब क्रक्स यही है कि ये दो चीज की वजह से उनका हाइपोथेसिस है वो थोड़ा सा चेंज हुआ है या थोड़ा सा मॉडिफाई हुआ है?
क्यों चेंज हुआ है? इन व्हाट वे हैज इट चेंज्ड? और दो एस्पेक्ट्स हो गए, इन व्हाट वे हैज इट चेंज्ड एंड व्हाई हैज इट चेंज्ड?
राइट। So
Next.
what way is not mentioned. Why it would have changed is because let's say if you are in a discovery process, every new thing that you discover will keep on adding to your research. So it's very normal to change your hypothesis or modify your hypothesis.
अच्छा अच्छा, तो आप कह रहे हो इन जनरल वो तो कुछ भी नहीं आएगा तो वो तो चेंज करेंगे, तो उसमें कॉमन सेंस की बात है ऐसे।
Right. Yes.
वी डोंट नो कि कैसे चेंज हुआ, बट वही होगा, कुछ नया मिला तो ऐसे।
Yes. Yes. हाँ।
तो डिस्कवरी क्या थी हमारी?
डिस्कवरी थी ये फॉस्फेटिक रिमेन्स जिसको कॉनोडॉन्ट्स बोलते हैं।
तो फॉस्फेटिक रिमेन्स की डिस्कवरी थी,
हाँ।
तो ये डिस्कवर हुए थे हमारे, और इसकी डिस्कवरी से नाउ आवर हाइपोथेसिस इज चेंजिंग। इज दैट व्हाट यू आर सेइंग?
Yeah, hypothesis changing. Yes.
Because of the discovery of phosphatic remains.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Farhan, you have anything else to add? I hope you can unmute yourself. Huh? Anything else to add?
I don't have. Yeah, now I'm able to unmute myself. Yeah, got. Yeah. So here, apart from what Indranil said, so here basically my understanding is that firstly there were conodonts. So they knew that before the time of 1981, the archaeologists knew that it's a 520 million years ago. They lived as a tiny marine animals. The remains of them now, but they didn't know the nature of the organism and nature of the remains and the function of the remains. So they didn't know about the fossils. They didn't know about the organism structure as a whole. But then the 1981 discovery told them, gave them information that not only that the phosphatic remains, but also there were some small, tiny, soft body animals who are also called the same that bore them. Now that bore them is like we have to imagine it like if it's a fossil and there are some small animals and they are inside them. Like bore them, I'm assuming that it's a drill, and inside that the soft inside those remains those soft animals, soft bodied animals are there. So that would mean that somehow that
Animals किसी के अंदर हैं?
like in the remains of those what do I say, that tiny marine animals, the phosphatic remains inside that, there are also some tiny soft bodied animals which are also getting preserved. So somehow that structure of the remain.
नहीं, एक सेकंड, tiny soft-bodied animals are also getting preserved.
Yeah.
और ये किसके अंदर है? You were saying ये किसी के अंदर है?
Yeah, I'm saying that these are the remains of the tiny, not the exact tiny soft bodied animals. I mean some remains of those.
Remains are also getting preserved.
Yeah, and somehow they are inside that inside those I mean animal, the actual remains.
The remains inside the animals.
Yeah, somehow they are protecting them. So their internal structure is protecting them. That is what I'm trying to imagine.
Hold on. So you're saying the remains are inside the animals, and that's how the remains are protected.
Yeah, those remains, that of the tiny soft body animals. And
hold on.
okay.
So you're saying the remains are inside the animal. That's how the remains are getting protected, and that's why they're able to stay. That's why we are able to find them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that is what they discovered in 1981, and the author says that so that it was discovered in 1981, and it still has some conclusive evidence regarding the development of that original vertebrate skeleton. So here the skeleton means the original coordinates. They wanted to examine its body structure, and they found that there are some tiny soft body animals coordinates that also is getting preserved in those remains. And now they are trying to judge the skeleton structure because it gives them new information about the vertebrate skeleton. So now the passage will tell about how the skeleton.
आगे को छोड़ देते हैं. Let's stay here. So you're saying कि कुछ 1981 में discovery हुई है.
Yeah.
एक discovery हुई है. तो क्या discovery है?
So the discovery is that along with discovery for this preserving, not just, yeah, the discovery is that the remains of the soft body animals which are presently there inside, I mean, both them, I'm assuming that it is inside some part of the original remains. So that is a specific part.
So this is the discovery that we have found the remains of soft-footed animals.
Along with the phosphatic animals. So they have found this new thing along with the original.
Right. So ये दोनों चीजें हमें मिली हैं. दोनों का मिलना is the discovery.
Yeah.
Okay. So these two things we have found, and that, which is our discovery. And so इस discovery से क्या हुआ?
So now they can now this might give them an idea. I mean, it's like it's an evidence, right? So now they have to postulate and hypothesis regarding this discovery, and with this they can now think that, okay, in which body part, like in the head or in the in the midsection or in the leg section, in which part have they found it, and now that can give them idea, okay, that what is the thing that is protecting that inner that inner soft body animals which are inside there. So that can give them
Animals किसी के अंदर है या soft bodied animals के अंदर कुछ है?
this this point I had a confusion that bore them will give me the help I need, but I think so they are inside, I mean the soft bodies are inside the original skeleton, all the original remains of that skeleton.
Animals are inside the remains.
Yeah.
That changes few things. So animals are inside the remains, and the remains are of animals.
Yeah.
You understand there is some
there's
particular thing, remains of animals,
yeah.
and then of
I
animals.
mean, I'm a bit confused with that bore them, but this that refers to the soft body animals, and that is boring them. Okay, so the soft bodied animals are actually having them inside them. I mean,
So now
now it makes sense, I think.
ठीक है. हाँ, तो इससे फिर क्या हुआ इस डिस्कवरी से?
Yeah, so now this will tell the archaeologists that okay, that this will tell both about the what are the conditions, and I mean how it is able to the remains have been able to survive for long in these sort like what environment did they get so that their fossils have been been there as a whole. So that
ये सब पर कहाँ लिखा हुआ है कि environment कैसा था, कैसे survive हुए, ये सब कहाँ लिखा?
I read the second paragraph and then thought about it.
So that's some different problem. Okay, that's a different problem. Even though we have not understood this statement, you are going ahead and trying to make connections. Because the thing is, if you read further without having understood this, there is a high chance that you may force whatever you understand on this sentence, even though this sentence could be saying something different.
Yeah, definitely.
So your comprehension will suffer. So then again, the norm is we give our best to understand. Of course, there are times when we'll not be able to understand. Then we'll have to move forward. That's fine. But then in that case, we should be very clear. We should take notes कि हाँ ये sentence में समझ नहीं आता. So that essentially that's a part, that's the reason you are practicing, to understand where your problems are and how you can correct them. So if you come across sentences that you have a lot of difficulty in understanding, you have to come up with strategies to be able to understand them, right? That's how you improve your score. That's how you improve yourself, and that's how you improve your score. जो भी problems are, you address them or you find solutions to them so that you don't face the same problems again and again and again. Is of course in some cases you may find some hacks कि ठीक है आगे बढ़ जाता हूँ नहीं समझ, but वो नहीं समझ आना is a problem that is unresolved, which may remain unresolved for this passage. That's fine, but eventually you'll have to come up with ways कि ऐसे kinds of sentences how do I handle, right? तो अभी तक तीनों की अंडरस्टैंडिंग ही ऑफ है एंड एट डिफरेंट लेवल्स, ठीक है? एंड आई थिंक नोबडी इज इवन क्लोज टू 70% और 80% ऑफ द अंडरस्टैंडिंग. सो रितिन स्टार्टेड बाय सेइंग डिस्कवरी ये है कि फॉसिल्स में सिर्फ फॉस्फेटिक रिमेन्स ही नहीं प्रिजर्व होते हैं, अदर रिमेन्स आर आल्सो प्रिजर्व. दैट इज नॉट द मीनिंग. That would be the meaning. Let's say if the sentence were saying, let me reword this. The written का जो understanding थी, that would be the understanding if the if let's say since the 1981 discoveries that fossils preserve not just this but other remains as well. If this is what the sentence was saying, if this is what the sentence was saying, then this would be the understanding what Ritin understood. But this is not what the sentence is saying. Let me keep it here. So sentence ये नहीं कह रहा है कि discovery है that fossils are preserving something. No. So when I read, for example, if I am reading this, that's how I read it. So very common problem, and the reason people struggle heavily with long sentences is that they try to understand the whole thing in one go. Okay, just as you don't try to understand the whole passage in one go, the whole paragraph in one go, it is not necessary that you have to read the entire sentence or understand the entire sentence in one go. But people just don't know any other way. Okay, the simple way is that you read the sentence part by part. Again, the simple thing is if the sentence is long, it's not going to work that you read the entire sentence in one go. You don't have the ability to process this entire thing in one go. So reading the entire thing in one go will work as long as the sentences are simple enough, depending upon your skill. Some people may be able to understand the whole sentence in one go, but a lot of people may not be. And you don't even have the processes to handle such sentences. Okay? So when the skill is not there, you need to have processes. For example, if my skill is, let's say I can lift 50 kgs at a time and I can travel with 50 kgs on my shoulder for 1 kilometer. But let's say if you give me 80 kgs, then I try to lift it, doesn't happen because my capability is 50 kgs. So I'm now limited by skills. Somebody else comes and says, yeah, why don't you do this? You divide 80 kgs into 2, 40, 40, and then you lift 40 kgs at a time. So you'll take more time, but you'll be able to do it. I do that and I'm able to do it now. So what's happening here is my process is complementing my skills. Without the right process, the process is as simple as just breaking down the problem into smaller components. Without the process, I just cannot handle an 80 kg thing. Similarly, without the right process, you cannot handle these long sentences. You will end up with some random thoughts, which may not have any relationship with what the sentence is saying. Of course, you will have the right words in your mind, but the right words may be communicating something very different to you. So when I read this, it says since the 1981 discovery. So there is a discovery. So as I read, I understand. Now, how sort of after how many words do you take a pause? That's your call. That depends on the complexity of the sentence, how difficult the overall context is for you. But the simple idea is that even while you are reading, you can understand. It is not necessary that you have to take a pause only at the end. It is as simple as that. So for example, when I read this, since the 1981 discovery of fossils, so there is some, so in any case, however, when I read, I'm expecting a contrast. और वैसे भी as Ritin said कि it is saying it were once among the most controversial of fossils. तो पहले एक जमाने में most controversial थे, ये चीजें हमें पता नहीं थी उनके बारे में. So I'm already expecting it's going to say कि now they are not controversial. Now, however comes, so of course I have certain expectation, but I'll understand the sentence. Since the 1981 discovery of fossils, preserving. So I understand preserving is a verb ing modifier. So those of you who are studying solely for focus edition, you may not know the SC preserving, but we understand that preserving is just more information about fossils. It's not a verb for fossils here. So we have fossils. What kind of fossils? Fossils that are preserving not just these elements, but also other remains. So now there is a discovery which is preserving not just the phosphatic elements, but also something else, other remains of the tiny soft-bodied animals. Tiny soft-bodied animals, तो वैसी बात हो चुकी है. Tiny marine animals, so probably it's the same animal we are talking about. When I read this, I immediately see, अच्छा पहले हमारे पास phosphatic remains तो पहले भी थे. They were among the most controversial. अभी recent discovery हुई है, which doesn't only have phosphatic, it has some other elements also. Acha, so there is something else also now we have discovered regarding these tiny animals. So tiny soft-bodied animals that bore them. So when I read that bore them, I know it's a relative clause. It's a modifier modifying animals. So these animals bore those remains. In animals, bore is a past tense. So I know, again, basic grammar I'm using to understand the sentence. So these animals bore these remains whenever those animals were alive. So we're talking in past. So naturally the animals are not there. We're talking about 520 million years ago. So naturally the animals are not there. We're talking about the fossils of those animals. So definitely there is no way the animals are still there. We are talking about the remains of the animals. Which animals that bore those remains whenever those animals were alive? Okay, so we have a discovery in 1981 in which not just the phosphatic remains were preserved, but some other remains were also preserved in that discovery. Okay, so now we have something new with us. So I have read only till this so far, but I have understood all this. I don't know what's going to come, but jitna maine pad liya hai, utna I have consumed, assimilated, and understood within the context. That's how I read. My process aids my skills. In this case, for example, if I also read the entire sentence in one go, it is entirely possible, rather it's very likely that I'll also not be able to make sense of it. Even my skills are not that great that I can read this long sentence of this context. Of course, if you give me a business context or economics context, I may be able to read such long sentences in one go. But 4-line sentence of this context, I don't have the ability to read in one go, to understand in one go. So my process helps me. I'm aware that I need to go slow here. So I read part by part, assimilate it, then move on. It's not that part by part becomes a mechanical thing. You read part by part, but you don't assimilate. Then there is no sense in reading part by part. You read part by part, assimilate kya keh raha hai sentence, you build up the sentence meaning. You're also seeing if you can form a connection with whatever you have already read, and then you move ahead. This is the basic process. Whenever you're reading a complex sentence, you can read it part by part. ठीक है, so I have read this कि अब हमारे पास सिर्फ phosphatic remains नहीं है, अब हमारे पास some other remains भी हैं. That's a new thing probably, given the context. So 1981 में discovery हुई. Then it says, since this discovery, scientists' reconstructions of the animal's anatomy. So animal कौन सा होगा? यही soft-bodied animal के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, जिनके remains है हमारे पास. उसकी reconstruction हुई है anatomy की. तो reconstruction naturally means कि पहले कुछ और हमारे पास था anatomy. Reconstruction का मतलब ही है कि there is a reconstruction. So there was already some construction with us. Now we have reconstructed. So is discovery, since discovery, there is a reconstruction. Reconstruction क्यों होगी? Okay, so probably now we have some other remains also. पहले तो सिर्फ हमारे पास phosphatic remains है, तो probably that was leading to some kind of construction of this animal's anatomy. Now we have other remains and probably they have increased our understanding. So now we have reconstructed the anatomy. So I'll make sense of it, then I'll go forward. I don't just keep reading कुछ ना कुछ तो sentence कह देगा, I understand it. This is the basic difference. बहुत deliberately पढ़ता हूँ. Of course, you may be thinking, oh, then it's going to take an enormous amount of time. Of course, it's going to take more time than usual. In your case, it may take you 30 minutes to read this passage if you're really reading it this deliberately, which is fine. The simple thing is, let's say you don't know how to dance. And then you see somebody ki yaar, mujhe eventually the performance deni hai, means I have to do all these 100 steps within 30 seconds because that's the performance. And then you think, oh, mujhe 30 seconds mein 100 steps karna hai, so you go just performing all those 100 steps in 30 seconds from the beginning. It's not going to work. It doesn't work in any domain of life. First, you master these steps. Ki dheere dheere, at least, even if you take 30 minutes, can you do all the 100 steps as they are supposed to be done? Let alone 30 seconds. If I give you 30 minutes, can you do all the 100 steps the way they are supposed to be done? That's the main thing. If you can't even do the steps correctly, then what point is it speeding yourself up? You'll be all over the floor. First thing is, whether it's music, dance, sports, anything in life, the first thing is you have to get it right. Once you start getting it consistently right and you keep practicing, that's how you build speed in all domains of life. But first you have to invest that time. You say कि नहीं मेरे पास तो 30 seconds होंगे, तो 30 seconds में जो भी dance steps हो सकते हैं, I'll do that. That's going to be fun. That's not going to be a good dance performance for sure. Dance performance, first thing is you have to get all the dance steps right, whether it takes you 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever. First, you have to master that. Then if you keep practicing the right steps over and over and over again, your speed increases. That is the only way to dance properly. And that is the only way to ace RC. First, make sure you are understanding things, everything. Again, when we are talking about understanding, we are not talking about remembering all the details. We are talking about understanding the gist of the sentence well. Okay? It's not that I'm asking you to remember कि अच्छा देखो याद रखना वो phosphatic spiky भी थे, phosphatic भी थे, they were bones and teeth, they were calcium phosphate, not some sulfur phosphate. That's not the point. We're not trying to remember all the details, but we are having a very clear understanding of the gist of the story that it's building up. कैसे डिस्कवरी हुई है, डिस्कवरी इस चीज की हुई है, उससे कुछ रिकंस्ट्रक्शन, उससे रिकंस्ट्रक्शन कैसे होगा? अच्छा, so now we have something different with us that might have led to some reconstruction. We don't know how that led to reconstruction, but we have a source that there is something new we have now, which could have led to reconstruction. So we are understanding what the passage is saying, what the sentence is saying as we are reading. This is the main thing. If you get this thing right, the direction will change in RC. First thing is clarity. Speed will come only over time. If you're not able to understand something, of course, you give your best, still not able to understand, you write it down, कि मुझे समझ नहीं आता. You come back to it, let's say a week later, 2 weeks later. For example, Farhan, a lot of problem in understanding that both them. I think others also had. Eventually he got it. But it took him 2, 3, 4 attempts to get this. So he could mark it. कि अच्छा इसमें मुझे time लगा था. ऐसा क्या था? Was it specific to boar? Yeah, I was not able to make this connection. It's just a modifier for animals. If I had understood that animals bore them, I might not have had this difficulty. So you may think about it. It's not just about the mistakes you make. It's also about ki kahan pe you are getting stuck. Because in the exam, you don't want to be stuck. You don't want to spend 3, 4, 5 attempts to understand 3 words there. So you have to keep looking at these things, keep learning, revising time and again. ये problem है. Thinking about solutions. क्या solution हो सकता है? Are there other constructions also जिसमें जो problem होती है and all that? This is the part of learning. So when I read this, अच्छा reconstruction could be because of these other remains. Probably हमारे पास पहले सिर्फ phosphatic remains थे, which were controversial, उससे कुछ पता नहीं लग रहा था. But now we have other remains which have probably led to reconstruction of the animal's anatomy, कि किस तरह का होता है animal अंदर से. And these reconstructions have had important implications. So this has now impacted the hypothesis concerning the development of vertebrate skeleton, कि एक skeleton develop कैसे हुआ था over a period of time. उसकी जो hypothesis थी, now that hypothesis has probably changed because this reconstruction has impacted that hypothesis. So probably we were expecting anatomy to be a particular way, but now we have reconstructed, so we understand that anatomy was something different, and that has led to some changes in the way we understand that how the skeleton developed. Exact details we don't know, but we understand that overall these are the changes which are happening. Make sense? Any questions first from three of you, Ritin, Farhan, or Indraneel? You can't unmute yourself. Is that the case, or and nobody wants to speak? Or can you unmute yourself? Anybody? Ritin, Farhan? No, acha. So if you need to speak, any three of any one of you, you can just raise your hand. I'll unmute you.
So is it not a good idea to, skip through these tough words? Like for me, like conodonts is a very, well, I have not heard this word before. And similarly, phosphatic, getting into these details at the very start when you're reading, right? So is it not a good idea to skip this and just have a broad idea? Okay, this could be this.
But come again. So what could be what? Tell me.
So for example, like conodonts, right? Should I just say it something like, so how I read is, if I see this word for the first time, I'll see, okay, it might be something. Let me say this is C, something C. C, the spiky phosphatic. Again, something that I am not very comfortable. So I'll say, okay, this is some SP. So is it the right way to read this?
Which is fine. मतलब the objective is never to remember कि सब phosphatic ही थे, sulfuric नहीं थे, कुछ और नहीं था. So you can
Right.
say the spiky, मतलब you can say these are SP remains. But आपको ये तो पता होना चाहिए these are remains of some animal. आपके दिमाग में ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि these are animals. इतनी clarity रहनी चाहिए. Now you may not remember these are spiky phosphatic remains. You may just कुछ remains हैं. For example, even I will not pay attention to spiky phosphatic remains हैं. जैसे कि अच्छा remains है और remains मतलब fossils हैं, जैसे लिखा भी और one among the most controversial fossils. So yeah, that's all I remember about this.
Yeah, got it.
इतना skip नहीं करूंगा. For example, जैसे आप कह रहे हो conodonts आ गया, तो can I skip the whole definition and just say one? No, that I'll not do. I'll आपको नया word आ रहा है और उसकी definition दी हुई है, तो I'll at least get a sense कि क्या है ये. I'll not remember every detail, but I'll get a sense. For example, I'll remember that these are remains of some marine animals. Yeah, Indraneel, you have spoken. You raised your hand.
Also till now, I have heard like using that skimming technique, as in you read it upar se for the first time, and then based on question you come back and read again. Ki, okay, ye question ke liye mujhe ye zarurat hai, so let me come back and read. Right. So I mean, is it a bad way or is this a better way?
Try that out.
Okay.
Go 6-8 महीने try. मतलब I know अगर उससे पहले success मिलती है then that's fine, but नहीं मिलती तो you can. तो मतलब skimming strategy देखो, the point is skimming एक तो होता है जैसे कई लोग मतलब different levels exist करते हैं market में. So there are institutes which are teaching कि first line last line पढ़ लो every paragraph. And then there are others who are saying कि skim कर लो, so that you know कौन सा information किस location पे है, so that when the question asks you, then you can come back to that. सबको क्यों समझना है, इतना time नहीं है हमारे पास. You have to understand it's not a test of memorization. It's not a test of can you spot this word कहाँ पे था ये. तो स्किमिंग करने से तुम्हें निकल जाएगा. इट्स अ टेस्ट ऑफ कॉम्प्रिहेंशन. द नेम इज रीडिंग कॉम्प्रिहेंशन. क्या तुम्हें समझ आता है? दिस इज द टेस्ट. अगर तुम कह रहे हो कि बिना समझे आई गेट द क्वेश्चंस राइट, ऑल द बेस्ट. ठीक है. सो ये जो स्ट्रैटेजी है ये क्या है कि फर्स्ट लाइन पढ़ लो, लास्ट लाइन पढ़ लो या स्किम कर लो. दिस इज अ वेरी शॉर्ट साइटेड यूटिलिटेरियन अप्रोच. यूटिलिटेरियन तो है, दिस इज व्हाट यू सी एंड दैट्स व्हाट पीपल आर really attracted to. Oh yeah, I don't need to read the entire thing. I don't even have time. मैं इतना कुछ क्या समझूंगा उसमें. I'll skim through it and depending on question क्या पूछता है वही जाके पढ़ूंगा मैं ध्यान से. बाकी सब मुझे क्यों समझना है? It's a utilitarian thing, but it's a short-sighted thing. Short-sighted इतना ही है कि you don't understand कि तुम्हारी utility इससे नहीं निकलने वाली है. Okay. So because a lot of things, and I think I'm not sure how much you have observed, but a lot of things are interconnected. So if the passage asks you a question around this and you go and read that, but उसका context ऊपर बन चुका था या फिर उसकी और elaboration नीचे आ रही थी, which you don't have any idea because you just read that part. It's not going to work. Comprehension का test है. Without comprehension, you're not going to succeed unless you're more intelligent than GMAT guys. If you are, then I think you don't need to follow skimming strategy. You can just understand it and get the answer. But if you're not more intelligent, then this strategy is not going to work. Yeah, Farhan.
Yeah, here I understood that the vertebrate skeleton, which is in the last line of the paragraph, it points to the tiny soft body animals, the remains of those. So that is what. But here, can I make a judgment that even the phosphatic remains of tiny marine animals, which was earlier before this discovery, was also a vertebrate skeleton? Do we have enough, here? I mean, can we infer that?
देखो आपको, do you understand the meaning of skeleton?
Yeah.
Skeleton क्या होता है?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes.
होता क्या है skeleton? What is the skeleton?
So it's the outer structure that uh, embodies the entire inner organs of the.
हाँ राइट, कि वो जो भूत बंगले जो दिखाते हैं मूवीज में, राइट, उसमें स्केलेटन्स घूम रहे होते हैं वो, राइट. वर्टिब्रेट स्केलेटन का क्या मतलब समझ आ रहा है?
Vertebrae, I mean the one who have the spinal cord or the vertebrae skeleton that is based on those type of a skeleton which has a spinal cord.
जो भी हम ऑर्गेनिजम्स को वर्टिब्रेट में और आई थिंक नॉन वर्टिब्रेट में डिवाइड करते हैं, आई डोंट नो, राइट, बट आई थिंक कुछ ऐसा होता है ना, राइट.
हाँ.
तो हम एक पर्टिकुलर काइंड ऑफ एनिमल्स के स्केलेटन के डेवलपमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं.
Yes.
तो अब आप क्या कह रहे थे? आर दीज द सेम एज?
मतलब यहाँ पे दो डिफरेंट हो गए ना, एक जैसे एक कॉन्ग्रुएंट्स ये हो गए. अच्छा, ओके, सो सिंस दे बोथ आर ऑफ द सेम टाइप, सो वी कैन मेक दैट assumption. लाइक मैं ये सोच रहा था कि जो टाइनी सॉफ्ट बॉडी एनिमल्स हैं जो जो इस डिस्कवरी में पाए गए हैं, जिसके अंदर उसके रिमेन्स हैं, अनदर टाइनी मेरीन एनिमल्स, तो ये
एनिमल के अंदर
वर्टिब्रे हैं.
नहीं, होल्ड ऑन. एनिमल्स के अंदर किसी के रिमेन्स नहीं है. हमें रिमेन्स मिले हैं ऐसे एनिमल्स के जो एनिमल्स में कभी वो चीजें होती थी. फॉर एग्जाम्पल लेट्स से कुछ अदर रिमेन्स, लेट्स से कान मिले हैं जो पहले नहीं मिले थे. तो कान उन एनिमल्स के मिले हैं जो एनिमल्स में वो कान थे. दैट बोर देम, मतलब एनिमल्स बोर दोज ईयर्स. दैट इज द मीन. अभी हमें कोई एनिमल नहीं मिला और ना ही एनिमल के अंदर कुछ मिला है. हमें तो एनिमल के रिमेन्स ही मिले हैं.
ओके, देन आई गॉट द आंसर. मैं दोनों को सेपरेट एंटिटी लेके चल रहा था.
नहीं, एक ही एनिमल है. अभी तक एक ही एनिमल, टाइनी मेरीन एनिमल्स के बारे में बात ही करी है हमने. उसके पहले हमारे पास सिर्फ फॉस्फेटिक रिमेन्स है विच वर वंस अमंग द मोस्ट कंट्रोवर्शियल. और फिर उसमें कुछ चीजें पता नहीं थी. पर अब हमें जो डिस्कवरी हुई है उसमें सिर्फ फॉस्फेटिक एलिमेंट्स नहीं, वी हैव फाउंड सम अदर रिमेन्स आल्सो. और उसकी वजह से वी हैव बीन एबल टू रिकंस्ट्रक्ट द एनिमल एनाटॉमी. और दैट रिकंस्ट्रक्शन की वजह से नाउ आवर हाइपोथेसिस हैज चेंज्ड रिगार्डिंग द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ वर्टिब्रेट स्केलेटन. तो आई एम एक्सपेक्टिंग कि ये शायद जो एनिमल होगा टाइनी सॉफ्ट मेरीन एनिमल, दिस आई थिंक वर्टिब्रेट्स होगा या समथिंग रिलेटेड टू दैट, क्योंकि इसकी रिकंस्ट्रक्शन से मेरा वर्टिब्रेट स्केलेटन के डेवलपमेंट की हाइपोथेसिस चेंज हो रही है.
Okay.
So ये जो सारे connections हैं, I'll try to understand and possibly at this stage, some of you may be thinking this is such a hard thing to do, which is right. कि आप में से बहुत सारे लोगों के लिए all making all of these connections will be very hard. So that's why I'm saying कि initially हो सकता है आपको you may take 30 minutes on this, 40 minutes on this, 2 hours on this. But if you are doing a passage, you are gaining from the passage only if you're trying your best to understand the passage. Otherwise, you're just having a mental satisfaction that I'm doing something to improve my score. You're not improving your score if you're not trying to understand things. Okay? Initially, of course, some passages may require you less time, some passages may require more time. But if you're doing a passage, the basic thing is you try your best to understand it. Of course, if there are certain aspects you नहीं समझ आ रहे हैं, तो you park them. Say कि नहीं समझ आया मुझे. Let's say you try again after a few days, or you read expert explanation and then compare कि मुझे क्यों नहीं समझ आ रहे थे, how could I have understood and all that. Okay. Anything else from three of you? So Gaurav, I'll be taking questions from other participants at the end, not right now. Right now, I'll just be talking to these three. Sorry. So let's go ahead. We have some 15-20 minutes left. देखते हैं कितना हो पाता है. So let's continue with the first sentence. So who would like to? So Indraneel, would you like to start with the first line of the second sentence? Oh, okay. Let me unmute you.
So this sentence is saying that vertebrae जो थे, they are पहले they were just a defensive development, but it was much later कि after the evolution of jaws, vertebrates became predators.
मतलब थोड़ा दोबारा explain
So
करो.
I'll put it like initial is equal to vertebrae skeleton defensive development, or after some time, like finally after evolution, vertebrates became predators because of the evolution of jaws.
अच्छा तो पहले sorry, I think I missed it. क्या शुरुआत दोबारा बोलो. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, एक second, I'll just take 10 seconds. So initially, vertebrate skeleton was just a defensive thing, defensive development. Later, it became vertebrates, as in vertebrate animals, became predators. जैसे जैसे jaws का जो उनका जो jaws है वो उनका evolution हुआ.
ठीक है.
This is
ठीक है.
what the sentence is.
ठीक है तो इसका connection क्या है अभी तक? How is it connected to the context? Any connection you can understand?
So connection, I think since there is a hypothesis that is mentioned, so probably this sentence points to that hypothesis कि vertebrate skeleton का development, how it has happened. That hypothesis is something that this first sentence tells about.
So this is a hypothesis you are saying.
हाँ, something related to hypothesis. Yes.
Something. This is something. अच्छा मतलब ठीक है hypothesis के आसपास की बात लग रही है. And so this is telling you about कि अब हमारा current hypothesis क्या है या पुराना hypothesis क्या था?
Current hypothesis क्या है?
दिस इज टेलिंग यू कि हमारा करंट जो अब रिकंस्ट्रक्शन के बाद अब हमने क्या समझा.
Right.
Okay. Ritan, Farhan, anybody disagrees with what we have understood so far? Ritan, you want to say 1 second? Yeah, you can unmute now.
But my understanding is this is a point of view regarding the nature of the organism. This and those who hold this point of view, they are saying that earlier the skeleton has a defensive development, like they can only defense, but later on the jaws was evolved, and then these vertebrates become predators.
Correct. तो ये तो वो कह रहा था फरहान, sorry, ये तो was Indranil, sorry. That is
Yes.
what I was saying. So you're saying the same. So this is our current understanding कि how the skeleton developed, right?
Right.
After we have reconstructed and all that. ठीक है. Farhan?
Yeah, here what I can see is that like only the champions of this view, I mean only the people who are agreeing with this defensive development theory are saying that it only after this first they evolved their vertebrae so that they can defend themselves. Now only after they have evolved their jaws that they could have the capability to become predators. So only those people are saying this, not the entire
Author नहीं कह रहा है ये, you're saying. You're saying only these people are saying, not the
yeah. The author is saying that they are saying that the champions of this, the the
That's
advocate.
fine कि जो इस व्यू के कौन से व्यू के
Defensive development.
the defensive development is a view.
Yes.
Defensive development is a view. What does that even mean?
Like कि ये जो skeleton था vertebrae का, ये initially develop हुआ था for their defense, like to defend against their predators. For those
This view, champions of this view क्या है? What is that view?
ये व्यू वो है कि जो मतलब कि how the development of the vertebrate skeleton was had undergone. So in this, some of these archaeologists think that it was initially developed as a defensive to defend for the vertebrates to defend themselves. The vertebrae were developed, evolved for the defense, and
कुछ साइंटिस्ट हैं वो ये समझते हैं.
हाँ.
और उन साइंटिस्ट का ये व्यू है बेसिकली.
Yes.
So this view मतलब ये जो है कि valid just so this view is referring to the entire sentence, this part, not
Yes.
just concept development. This view is this view.
Yes, exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
तो जो लोग they hold this view वो ये भी समझते हैं कि बाद में much later evolution जब jaws आए then they became predators. You are saying this.
Yes.
So this is not what the author is saying. That's what you are pointing out.
Yes.
And you are saying this is this the view that has come after reconstruction of animals anatomy, or is this the view before that?
This is before that.
Why do you say it is before that?
Because this is a fact he is saying. Has not connected with anything. The author has not discussed like this has the discovery in the first passage has affected this view. He's just stating this view as a fact.
ठीक है. तो यू आर सेइंग कि वो भी कनेक्ट नहीं कर रहा तो इसलिए पुराना ही होगा ऐसे.
हाँ मतलब अभी उसने वो हाइपोथेसिस जो डिफरेंट हैं डेवलपमेंट की वर्टिब्रल स्केलेटन की, अभी उनके बारे में फैक्ट्स बताए हैं. अभी ये नहीं बताया कि दिस डिस्कवरी हैज एक्चुअली चेंज्ड इट. सो या हाँ, ये मैं थोड़ा लेके चल रहा हूँ, थोड़ा एज्यूम करके चल रहा हूँ कि इससे अभी उस recent discovery से 1981 की discovery से कोई relation नहीं.
So you're assuming that. You're not sure, but you're assuming that.
Yeah.
ठीक है. लेट्स से अगर ऐसा कुछ लिखा हो कि ऊपर लिखा है कि पीपल्स व्यू ऑफ फरहान हैज चेंज, और उसके बाद आता है फरहान एंड ट्रेडिशनली बीन रिगार्डेड एज स्टूडियस, तो क्या समझ आएगी? रिसेंट व्यू है, पुराना व्यू है, और वी डोंट नो क्या है.
So इसका ये मतलब हो गया कि फरहान पहले स्टूडियस था एंड नाउ द व्यू हैज चेंज्ड. अब इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि वो स्टूडियस है या नहीं है, ये एग्जैक्टली नहीं पता, बस ये व्यू में चेंज है.
तो ये पुराना व्यू है.
Had been regarded. Okay, so had been regarded is like पहले वो एक स्टूडियस था और वो आज तक माना जा रहा है, और पीपल्स व्यू ऑफ फरहान हैज चेंज्ड. तो मतलब अभी रिसेंटली, मतलब आज इस पॉइंट से आगे तक, मतलब कंटिन्यूएशन तक फरहान का पीपल्स व्यू हैज चेंज्ड.
तो अब वो चेंज हो गया, पहले वो स्टूडियस था ऐसे. So Ritin, you want to say something regarding this?
My point of view is traditionally pehle Farhan was considered studious, but now at present people's view has changed.
अच्छा, तो आप कह रहे हो ये द वे इट इज स्ट्रक्चर्ड, ये पता लग रहा है कि पुराना व्यू था एंड आप चेंज हो चुका है, राइट?
Yes sir.
Right, because it's saying traditionally been regarded. So
Yes
the
sir.
one difference that Farhan was constantly not paying attention to or was consistently making a mistake in is कि फरहान और बार बार बोला था कि पहले स्टूडियस था. Nobody is saying कि फरहान स्टूडियस था या नहीं था. We are saying कि how Farhan was regarded.
Yeah.
Nobody is telling you whether Farhan was studious or not. We are only saying how Farhan was regarded, or how he was considered. What image people had of him.
Right.
This is one difference. The second is the way it is stated had traditionally been, the traditional view had been regarded in the past perfect tense. So पहले regard ऐसे होता था, किसी से पहले, किससे पहले? Change से पहले. That's what we can understand from the context. So it is very clear that this is a previous view and the view has changed. Whether Farhan has changed, nobody is saying anything about that. Farhan may have stayed the same. We don't know. So similarly, here the sentence is saying vertebrate skeleton had traditionally been regarded as a defensive development. So पहले vertebrate skeleton could as a defensive development माना जाता था. ये हिंदी में अनुवाद है उसका. तो मतलब अब शायद कुछ और माना जाता है. So this is telling you not after reconstruction, this is telling you before reconstruction क्या hypothesis थी हमारी. और this view बता रहा है कि जो ये traditional view जो रखते थे, which is कि it was regarded as a defensive development, वो लोग ये मानते थे that it was defensive development, then eventually they became predators over a period of time. So according to traditional view, the development happened in this way from defensive to predation. That the skeleton started as a defensive development, eventually it was used to sort of predate. This is the traditional view before the reconstruction changed something. So possibly after reconstruction, we have now a different view. We can already expect that. Can we be absolutely sure? Possibly not, but we can expect that in a significant way. Farhan, anything not clear?
Yeah, got it. हाँ, अच्छा, ये रीजन मैं काफी आसानी से हैडबिन से दे सकता था. Okay.
तो बात है क्यों नहीं कर पाए? एडमिन कुछ नई चीज है आपके लिए या ट्रेडिशनली कोई नई चीज है?
I think like सोचने में it's very easy. It's difficult to express it exactly. I think that
सोचने में आपके दिमाग में सही था?
हाँ, सोचने में तो मैं यही सोच रहा था कि पहले ये सोचते थे कि डिफेंसिव डेवलपमेंट का है, और ये भी मैंने मतलब पॉइंट आउट देख लिया था कि बस ऑथर नहीं कह रहा, ये बस वो चैंपियंस ही कह रहे हैं कि इवोल्यूशन का है.
वो तो ठीक है, बट आपको ये भी क्लियर था कि रिकंस्ट्रक्शन से पुराने व्यू की बात कर रहे हैं?
हाँ, लेकिन इसमें मैं ये नहीं, जब आपने ये पूछा था ना कि मतलब ये जो रिसेंट डिस्कवरी है इस पे पॉइंट कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा, हाउ कैन यू से दैट, तो ये मैं हैडबीन से मैं एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पाया था.
या
Somehow like when you read similar a similar tense, so you know that okay, this is the thing, but you are not able to justify it.
आप कह रहे थे मैं एज्यूम कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि कुछ कनेक्शन नहीं दिया तो आई एज्यूम कि ये कुछ और
हाँ,
था। एज्यूम करने वाली बात नहीं, गिवन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट तो बिल्कुल क्लियर है कि हम उससे पिछले की बात कर रहे हैं।
yes. हाँ, ये फिर डाउट रह जाता, फिर मैं बाद में आके चेक करता इसे, इसलिए.
हाँ, एंड देन एज यू कंटिन्यू टू रीड यू कीप हैविंग दोस डाउट्स कि मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग सही है नहीं है, एंड देन ऑप्शंस आ गए, दिस वे यू वन वे और द अदर कि शायद अच्छा ये कहना चाहता होगा, मैंने ये समझ लिया था एंड ऑल दैट, राइट?
This happens with me in other passages as well, so yeah.
Indranil, you wanted to say something?
No, not really.
ठीक है, so let's do at least one more sentence. So Farhan, would you like to take the next sentence after the second sentence of the second paragraph? Okay, you need to.
Okay, so here here the author is talking about the first vertebrate. So basically, the ones which have not yet evolved into the jaws. So basically, in this, he says that which were soft-bodied, they have been an easy prey for the other vertebrates which are carnivores in nature. So basically, he's saying that they are a meal for the other carnivores who would be at the top of the food chain. Especially if these early vertebrates, so if these are early vertebrates, again point to the first vertebrates, were sedentary suspension feeders. Now I don't know the technicality of the sedentary suspension feeders, but I can assume that these just like feed on lower. I mean, they are just simple feeders. They do not feed on any other animals or any other vertebrate. So basically, they are the common prey for their upper food chain carnivores and vertebrates. So basically, it so that the author want to explain that why this in the next line, like I have to read the next line to check this one, but I think here he said that he is only explaining what were the facts of first vertebrates, like what we have found about them, and yeah, that they were and that they were common prey to carnivores, and they
So how
were
is it connected to
they
the
do not
previous?
feed on anything
How
else.
is it connected to the previous sentence?
So basically, it says that it actually tells about the defensive development, like जो first थे उन्होंने डिफेंस उनके डिफेंसिव जो फर्स्ट वर्टिब्रल स्केलेटन जो डिफेंसिव डेवलपमेंट का रहा, वो एक्चुअली में आया ही क्यों होगा.
Yeah,
तो
very yeah,
बेसिकली वो इसलिए आया होगा क्योंकि उनकी ये कॉम्प्लिकेशन थी.
yeah.
So basically that is how the evolution process works.
Very good. Yeah. So because they were easy prey, so that sort of explains why it was defensive development, because they needed defense, because they were easy prey for numerous carnivores, right? And as you are saying, these were sedentary suspension feeders. So I also don't know the exact meaning of these. Sedentary, I can understand who doesn't move much, but otherwise I won't know, and I will not worry much about it. Okay, so they were certain kinds of animals, and of course, if I can make the connection, it's better, but I know I have no idea about this. But I can understand from the context that because they were sedentary suspension feeder, they were an easy prey. So I can make the connection with sedentary, why they were easy, because अगर एक ही जगह पे रहते हो तो one can easily come and just prey on you. But I don't understand how suspension feeders is anyway related to being an easy prey. Right, and you are right that I would also form this connection. Yes, this is explaining why it started as a defensive development, because they were such an easy prey. Okay, so we don't have time left, so let's spend some time, a few minutes, to talk about anything you have taken away from this session. We'll start with 3 of you, and then I'll open the floor for other people to ask questions or share what they want to share. So let me unmute. So Farhan, you have raised your hand or what?
Yeah, I raised earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Indranil has raised.
So I had a small doubt on the previous thing. So how did you connect the first sentence with उस चीज से कि साइंटिस्ट का रिकंस्ट्रक्शन हुआ था उस रिलेटेड? मतलब फॉर मी आई थॉट इट इज समथिंग रिलेटेड टू हाइपोथेसिस, बट यू सेड इट इज समथिंग रिलेटेड टू रिकंस्ट्रक्शन.
हाइपोथेसिस से ही रिलेटेड है कि रिकंस्ट्रक्शन के बाद हाइपोथेसिस हैज चेंज्ड.
राइट.
So now it's talking about the traditional hypothesis, traditionally how it was regarded. Okay. So after reconstruction, जो नई hypothesis होगी वो something will be different. What I was saying is कि this is telling us कि reconstruction से पहले क्या hypothesis थी. So I'm not relating to the reconstruction. I'm relating to the hypothesis कि original क्या थी और बाद में change हुई होगी.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything specific you learned from our interaction today? If anybody wants to share.
Sir, I continue, please.
Can go first. Yeah.
I learned importance of working on comprehension, like that again, segmenting a sentence into separating modifiers, and reading the core sentence and then correlating its modifier, and like the importance of breaking the sentence. Sometimes over practicing give overconfidence, and I loses working on emphasizing on the basic component. So I even noted it like work on comprehension part. And sir, like one question regarding clarity. Uh, what my takeaway is for first paragraph is like that there is a controversy. Then there is a point key. Okay, we don't know nature and function, and then there is a contradiction. Okay, however, ऐसा ऐसा था बट लेकिन अब ऐसा ऐसा हो गया कि भाई ये चीजें हमें मिल गई है. एंड देन इट इट एडिट्स कि एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू आ रहा है. ओके, अब ये सर ये दिस पैराग्राफ इज अ बायो पैराग्राफ, सो रिलेटेड है, तो कुछ अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो जा रही है. बट इफ 2-3 कंपोनेंट्स अगर एक लिटरेचर पैराग्राफ में आते हैं वहां पे, और अगर उनकी कुछ लिटरेरी टर्म्स भी आ जाती है लाइक सोनेट्स और समथिंग दे ऐड लिटरेचर पॉइंट्स, वहां पे ब्लैंक हो जाता है. उसको कैसे ऐड करें?
ठीक है, तो वहाँ पे there is an additional complexity. There are a lot of things you don't understand. You also don't understand how logic flows, what kind of ideas they talk about in literature, right? So, so initially, then you'll have to do some Google search as you read paragraphs.
Okay.
So you need to have some familiarity with the context. ठीक है, because there are two aspects. One is the language skills, कि आपको कोई random sentence उठा के दे दूं, है तो English ही language. Can you understand the literal meaning of it? That is a language skill, which is what we were emphasizing. You read part by part, at least language-wise जो modifier है, you are very clear कि literally ये मतलब है. But even if you understand the literal meaning, you may not be able to make sense of it in real life. कि contextually क्या कहना चाहता है this, right? Because you don't have any idea कि literature में वो किस तरह से कर रहा है. You don't know what kind of things they talk about and all that. So then you need some familiarity also. So you get that familiarity by researching a few ideas, a few words on Google, looking at expert explanations. So let's say if you do 100 literature passages or 50 literature passages, naturally 50 first, if you really understand those 50 passages, 50 first would be a little easier for you. So that's how you build some familiarity. ठीक है. Farhan, Indraneel, you want to add? You want to share anything?
I want to speak like even while I was trying to I understood that my comprehension skills are a bit on the lower side. I also understood that but even on reading or attempting RC passages on GMAT Club or any other sources, such detailed level of comprehension is not provided. It can only be provided, I think, via these sessions, private tutor sessions. So like, how do I practice this? Like, even if I'm trying to comprehend it, and I'm making some progress, and some of the some of my thinking is wrong, and some of my views are correct. How do I start practicing on it so that in the right way, so that it can actually lead to a progress in the RC? Like today is such if I try to attempt such RCs, this comes, I think, under 700 level. So if I start practicing this, there will be a point that I will be thinking that I'm correct, but there would be no one standing against me who's saying that okay, you might be wrong in this aspect, and no explanation in the even the explanation section of GMAT Club or any other. They only give a passive or overall section, overall analysis, but not the exact word to word or line to line. So how do I think I need to develop that on my own. I need to check my own views. How do I do that? Because I will assume that I am correct always. I will have to challenge myself.
Yeah.
I have to challenge myself so that I can get the best out of it. So that is the issue which I am facing.
So देखो इसमें so there are about 4 to 5 detailed RC passage explanations on my YouTube channel, and then there is a YouTube channel that you might go by Anish, who is my business partner. So we do classroom together. So on his YouTube channel also you'll find 4 to 5 RC passage explanation. They are equally detailed. So you at least you'll have 8 to 9 passages for which you'll have very detailed sentence by sentence explanation. So you can start with that. And then you can, I think if you really do a good job, you'll have a lot of ideas ki aapki problems kahan pe hai. And then as you do things on your own, you can sort of be more critical ki acha yahan pe meri problems hai, I really understood this is connected or not.
Yeah, and the things that on net they say that you should read novel. Basically, you should read Aeon essays or National Geographic essays, articles of Harvard Business Reviews. So will that help reading them or?
If you read them also the way you read this, which is if you're reading everything superficially, it's not going to help.
Yes, that's right.
Point is, let's say you actually read it in a way that you're giving your best. You're really trying. Of course, even if let's say your best is, let's say 70%, that's also fine. If you keep giving your best will improve. That's the point. So if you are giving your best, then if you have a lot of time and you want to go beyond the passages, then it makes sense. You can go to Financial Times, Wall Street Journal and all that, National Geographic and all that. But let's say if you are having a choice, ki passage karo, yeah, article pad, then always passage, because when you do a passage, you get feedback also in terms of questions kitne sahi ho rahe hain, options mein confusion aa rahi hai, nahi aa rahi hai. When you read an article, there is absolutely no feedback. you may be thinking sab samajh aa gaya, you may have understood nothing. There is absolutely zero feedback there. So if there is a choice, always go with the passages, whether it's GMAT passages, GRE passages, LSAT passages. If you have a lot of time, you don't feel like doing passages, then you may do those articles. But again, the articles also are supposed to be read in a very sincere way, the way you would read RC passages. Only then they'll help you.
Yes, I think that is the problem with most of the geometrical. Like they are reading and they are not comprehending it that well, and that leads to a loss. Depending.
And they think कि बस पढ़ते पढ़ते कहीं ना कहीं जिंदगी पहुंच जाएगी.
Yeah, this has been the story of my first attempt. So yeah, I'll improve on this.
ठीक है, cool. Indranil, you have anything to add? Any takeaway you have?
Yeah, so I think this is super helpful. The thing that stood out for me is how to read these passages. So till now, I used to read them very fast. So my aim was to not break the flow. But I think the technique that you told us to, read it part by part, try establishing links, and most importantly, if you're not able to read a big sentence, break it down into smaller parts. I think this is something that I would try to inculcate in my practice and hopefully improve in reading comprehension. So thanks for this.
Okay. So now the floor is open. Others can also ask their question. You can raise your hand and then I'll unmute you. You can also use the chat window now to ask questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, Gaurav.
yeah, so one thing I definitely recommend. So at one institute, I was given this advice of skimming through, and it never worked for me. And I think it will never work because, as you rightly mentioned. So what I can take away from this particular class is that if you can understand the meaning of the sentences well, connecting it to one another and then summing up the overall gist will probably take some time for a passage of, let's say, 3 or 5 paragraphs, but eventually it will not let us kind of go to and fro from question and then passage. I think it will be easy for us to answer. So it's a big takeaway. And second is that your approach is very practical. It's more like what we feel and what we basically find difficult to is something that you are basically helping us. So thank you for that. A lot of takeaways from me.
Thank you.
But only question is that, let's say, for 5 paragraph long passage, what should be the ideal time that we should devote, given that we have fair bit of reasoning and comprehension ability with us now. So because if we go by every line and then even I increase my speed, then what is your view on that? So what should be the ideal time?
So the will change over time depending upon your skills. So again, if you I think I conducted a webinar yesterday in which I shared how I scored. I recently took GMAT focus. I scored 100 percentile. So essentially 735 equivalent to a 770. That's 100 percentile on the GMAT according to MBA.com. So I shared in my webinar all the statistics. So if you just look at that, you will see on one passage I spent 6 minutes, on another passage I spent 2 minutes. It's 3 times. It's not that the length was 3 times. It's, of course, there are other factors also that play a role. How much familiar you are, how complex it is, how dense it is, and all that. So there is no one standard answer ki kitna time lagana hai. You have to see what kind of, if you are taking hits on your comprehension, that will be hit on your score also. It's as simple as that. In the beginning, when you are preparing or you're trying to learn, trying to understand, I have had students who used to spend 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours also on a passage that looks nonsensical. How can somebody spend, let's say, that actually there is a video, 7 hours on a passage. So that person used to do sort of just a couple of sentences every day for a week, and then he would take a week to complete a passage. Of course, people don't find it, aisa time kaun laga sakta hai, but that person shared with me, what can I do? And that person started at a 320 kind of score. on the GMAT. But so of course that explains why he was taking so much time on reading a passage, but that also means that he was very sincere in applying the process. If he was taking time, he was taking time. So he told me that initially his target was कि 1 घंटे में I'll read a paragraph. So paragraph a day. But then he realized if he gives himself 1 hour to read even one paragraph, then also he feels rushed क्योंकि वो समझ नहीं आ रहा होता उसे. Then he started giving himself 1 hour to read just a couple of sentences. That's how he started 2 years back. Now he's at a much better stage, of course. But again, 2 years journey because he started at a very low level. 320 is like you're in the bottom 5% in the world. Not everyone will be at the same level. But the point is everybody is going to take a different amount of time. And some of you may be needing 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours on a passage. You have to spend that time eventually to improve your skills. If you don't spend, if you rush, it's not going to happen. So JK is asking what's the contrast. However, yeah, so it has become less controversial. Correct, because now we have some other remains. So now we essentially get to know more about it. So possibly these things, nature of the organism, the function of the remains were unknown. So probably now we know. So we have been able to reconstruct and we have been able to change the hypothesis. So probably it's becoming less controversial now. That's a contrast. So Abhishek has a few takeaways. Indication are the same as inference. Breaking down problems, clarity over speed. Okay, good takeaways. CJ, while solving the questions, I need to read again the part where the questions are with okay, I understand the passage, answering the question, I tend to go again to the, that's fine. I also go back to the paragraph generally. But the point is, when do you go back to the paragraph because you don't have any idea while reading the question, or you just go back to confirm your understanding? Or a few times you may not have a very clear idea exactly क्या answer होगा, so just go there to clarify. That is fine. But if you never have, a lot of times you don't know कि answer किस तरह का होगा, and you're going to the passage to just scan कि कहाँ पे answer है, then it probably means that you didn't do a good job reading the passage. So you should not be spending a lot of time in the questions. Essentially, you should have done a good job the whole passage. Anything else? Important implication means इस पे impact है. That's all I can understand. Impact means it could have changed in some way. That's all I can understand. That's a little meaning of implications. So if you have reconstructed some anatomy, some skeleton, that would impact how the development happens. So I can understand, yeah, that can change. If you are changing this part, the overall development story can also change. How do we keep an eye on the structure as we read? So again, the process is you read a sentence or a sentence, you connect. So in any case, when you're constructing, you're paying attention to the story. But let's say after 3-4 sentences, then you can take another pause to understand कि 3-4 में क्या हुआ है, which is something, let's say you take a pause at the end of every paragraph. चलो इस paragraph में क्या हुआ? So it is to recapture the story. In any case, you have formed the connection. So this part is not going to be difficult if you have really done a good job in making the connection between individual sentences. Okay, so you can take a pause at the end of every paragraph and see कि overall क्या हो रहा है. Okay, are we done? Okay, I think no more questions coming. So when you end this, you'll get a survey link. I think a survey will open up in your browser window. So do share your thoughts. When are we completing the passage? We're not completing the passage. This is done. The objective was not to complete the passage. The objective was to learn a few things. I think that's what we have done. Okay. So cool. Thank you so much for attending this. It was a new experiment. I look forward to hearing from you how this experiment was for you, so that I can see how to go about it in the future. Okay, thank you so much. Have a good night. Yeah, have a good week.
This is almost a private tutoring session, sir.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was the intent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for your blog, sir. They're awesome.
Thank
I always read them as soon as I get a notification. Like 3.5 years is a long journey, sir. So
Yeah.
your blogs keeps me moving.
Thank you. Glad to
Thank
know. Okay. Good night. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye, sir. Thank you for the session, sir.
Thank you.